We'll be following Greg because it's interesting for us delivering science within government. What is our role? And our role, I think, as I'm suggesting there, is the best we can do is deliver advice. The question that we need to ask is how well do we target that advice? And in a time when a definition of strategy, of effective strategy, is pretty closely linked to your mastery of social media, there's a challenge for scientists to be communicating the outputs of their work, and that's one of the things that we are very aware of. Not only the science we do, but then how do we generate it, and then how do we actually make sure that the ends of the world are getting the advice they need to develop the policy, and then ultimately the minister. But moving into what I was aiming to talk about, and I know that everyone here is only here because the talk, who needs drugs when you've got geology, must have been full. And something I've learned at this conference is geologists don't like jokes about sleeping pills. But I'm going to discuss pretty quickly the program approach. I'm conscious that it's late on the last day. I will move into as much time as I've got left to talk about, to show some exciting pictures of the things that have happened in 3 programs over the last 3 or 4 years within the agency. Then when I run out of time, I'll stop the slideshow. But what you will see, I hope, is an increasing integration in the way we deliver those programs, and that's one of the outcomes of this program approach. As I said, the targeted nature of what we do is a key part of doing science within government. This morning, Bob and Sandy spoke about the value of having a research sector which can develop a large body of knowledge, and then government cherry picks, if you like, the bits of that knowledge that will inform the policy, inform the decisions that it needs to make. Pretty simplified view of a 3-step process in getting us to a decision there. A key part of that is that feedback loop at the beginning. We get much better decisions at the end if we're thinking about the science that's going into establishing the initiative right up front. If we're looking to do really crazy things up front that we're not going to be able to inform with decent evidence and decent science, at the end we're going to make mistakes. So there is a pretty healthy loop between the science and whatever the decision maker is before we actually start this process. That's very important. Another key part of this is a requirement for government is when you get to the end of your developing your evidence, you're needing to look at how you're going to archive that information. We don't have the luxury of writing things on the back of our envelopes and on that serviette from lunch. One day down the track, Greg's going to ask, how did you make that decision? And someone is going to have to find it. So all the way along we need to be making sure that not only are we able to back up our science with what we do, but it can be found later on when it's needed. Collaboration is a key. Following Sandy and Bob this morning, I was pretty pleased to see much of what I was going to say lined up with what my boss said. So that was my lovely boss, sorry. I told Jenny to say that this morning. But there's one of the key things is that in order to collaborate, you need time and scale. And large programs, these large programs that have been running over a number of years, they provide us with the opportunity to be working on something and for groups of people to come together long enough that they're able to get used to working together and for someone from one discipline to understand the way someone from another discipline works. A lot of the advice that we're asked to give is very short term. Often it's measured in minutes or hours that we've got to respond. And inevitably it's very difficult there for scientists working side by side to get an understanding of the work that they do together and how that complements each other. Over a larger program, we've got time for scientists from different disciplines to work together. If they miss the first meeting, 9 months later, they're still working together and they're developing an understanding of the relationships between their particular disciplines. Or people in the science are getting a better understanding of the needs of the policy. So that having the time and the scale in a large program gives us really a chance to more effectively develop collaboration. Someone's already quoted Einstein. Data is a key part of making this work. We're able to do what we can do now, where we can develop a program of activities and then grow on that and then make decisions and then put that away and then come back to it later on, because we've got the data set up. And Michelle Waycott's talk this morning just demonstrated that a little bit. And I relate that back to patents. In the early days of patents, they were designed as a way of sharing knowledge. So you would patent something purely so someone else could find it and they could take it and make it better. We're coming back to that now with data. We're now in a point where we are putting data in a place where the next people can come along and grab it and do good things with it. 10 years ago, when I was putting out a contract, I would be saying, first thing I'd say to myself is, who is that person out there who holds the data, who can make the decision here? Now we can say, the state holds the data. The state is the group that can supply whoever it is that's going to do the analysis, who's the best person to deliver that analysis. And that's a much better position to be in. And so that's why I'd link it to Einstein, not just because I'm the manager in science and I have to mention Einstein in every talk. So the science programs, I'll move on soon to the slideshow, but science programs, the alignment of advice, alignment across the disciplines leads to better advice. If Emma's talk on the first day, she spoke about the link between catchment areas and the receiving environments in some of the areas she was doing her coastal studies. If we are doing more water resource planning and we're looking at the catchment development at the same time as we're looking at the river response or the aquifer response, then we're going to do a better job of water resource planning. So if we can put the disciplines together who can bring that information, we're going to do a better job of managing that resource. Data developments are a key part of informing what we do, and it's a pretty exciting time what is going to happen, I think, in the next few years to enable us to do better and better things. Developing the scope early, defining the scope of the program, and then having flexibility to adapt is important over a long period of time. Some of the programs we'll look at in a minute, I'll touch on that a little bit more. And there is a whole range of our current business that if we can find ways to look at longer term programs and make that the norm, then we're going to be able to say, okay, if we know we're working together for 3 years, let's get to know each other and let's do the exciting things that bring our disciplines together so that we can inform the policy the best way. And then water resource planning is one that I mentioned there. There's a whole range of them that it's the longer term that we can take, and that's difficult, often very difficult, but in the ways we can do it. Another example of that I think would probably be the regional NRM plans, where you've got people from all sorts of disciplines in each region lined up behind an NRM plan. They know what their job is for the coming 3 years or 5 years. It's a very similar thing that we can do in science to inform advice. So moving on to a few programs, and 3 of them that we've delivered through DEWNR over the last 5 years. The Climate Change Adaptation program, which was a couple of years ago. I think we probably all missed the conference 2 years ago because we were madly completing that. The Coal Seam Gas and Coal Mining Water Knowledge program, and the South Australian Riverland Floodplain in SARFIP, which is currently underway and is informing an investment up the Murray. You will find the information related to these projects on the government data stores, EnviroData and WaterConnect, and I'm glad I've got there because Michelle manages the group that looks after them. The Climate Change Adaptation Program, was funded through the Australian Government's Department of Environment. It was to inform NRM, the NRM plans so that they can be adapted to climate change, and touched on every region in South Australia. And the activities were diverse, and from fire adaptation through to a lot of risk management, and then a range of different activities that would translate that into the NRM plans themselves. This information you won't find on NRM data because it's informed the NRM plans and it's behind the scenes work that's there. But you can get to, through environmentsa.gov.au, you can get to those plans. The coal seam gas program is a major activity. It's been running over the last 3 or 4 years, funded through the bioregional assessment program. The role is to inform the future development of any coal seam gas program in any coal mining region around Australia. There's been a focus in South Australia, particularly in the far north, in the Arkaringa and Bidurka basins. Different types of partners here I think is worth mentioning. The funders, in this case the Australian Government, collaborative partners, and they include the key Commonwealth science bodies here, but also private sector science providers are a key part of helping us deliver this work, and then the universities and Flinders as well. Universities' expertise would get brought in not only as a delivery partner but also as a governance partner or technical oversight committee. So there's a few different roles there in the way we partner, and it starts getting a bit more complicated. This is a case where the way this is delivered was documented very clearly up front, and so we knew that we had to track through a five-stage component. In South Australia we've completed the first stage. Because there is no pressing coal seam gas or coal mining development on the cards, that preliminary work will remain until there is a development underway. But it was a key one where they put a lot of effort into saying, where's the program? What's the program we're going to follow to make this consistently around the country? So off we went. We employed guides with beards to drill holes. Our guys then put together really nifty communication tools for demonstrating, in this case, the basins themselves. And so if I press the right button, nope. Now the guy on the left, that's actually a 3D PDF that you can go online, you can spin it around. Kids can think they're playing with Star Wars, and they can see they can get right inside the different parts of the aquifer and see the way it's made up and all the different layers. A really positive communication tool. You have to go out and see the Gab Springs, and you wouldn't be able to stop Travis Scotch anyway. A lot of remote sensing and spatial work. I want to show this one. Astrobleem. This work led to the best description of the Gab Springs formation that's been put together so far. This is the standout one. It's a spring that was developed following a meteor impact, putting stress on the overbearing areas. So found some really interesting stuff through this extended program of work. And then Michelle might let me go on a little bit because this is her stuff. And then by linking the work in real time to the Atlas of Living Australia, and by, in this case, the red areas are buffers around each of the springs, we can start looking at what's the makeup, what are the species that have been found close to those springs, and then we can get descriptions of each of them. And then it's similar for the river work. The only thing I'd like to show just quickly is the SARFIP program. Once again, very similar funding, partnership structure. The key here is the way that we're moving beyond that first step of just data capture here, and we're looking at the way we can put the different discipline work together in all of its complexity, and this is what it really looks like, to inform an investment decision which is aimed at improving the ecological health of the River Murray through changing some water regimes on the floodplains. So we're really starting now, in the way we apply our science, to get to a way that we can use all these different disciplines, pull them together, and do some really good investment or decision support. And this I borrowed from a talk yesterday, BBN Man, which is a way that we're doing it in the SARFIC program. A really complicated program. The decisions are really difficult, but we can bring all the disciplines together because we've got the time and the space to do that work. And we're back to Doug.
Okay, thank you, Tom. You definitely have no time for questions, so if you want a question for Tom, you'll have to harass him at afternoon tea. So now we're moving on to